call the meeting to order. It's 7:01. This meeting is being conducted in person and virtually according to Southampton town policy and New York state law. For persons who wish to participate in the meeting, they should sign on to the Southampton Town Clerk's webpage, the portal, and click on the live button, or if they wish to participate and speak, click on the link for the virtual meeting, and at the appropriate time to raise their hand for attention in order to participate. We have in attendance today Vicki Kahn, Tim Ganettis, Susan Clark, Martha Green, Bill Hine, and Stephanie Davis, and myself, Ed Wisnowski. Jeff Gibbons called earlier to say that he would not be able to attend tonight. We also have present David Wilcox, liaison to the Landmarks Board as well. For individuals who wish to speak and comment, you'll be asked to identify yourself and to identify your hamlet of residence for the purpose of the record. Our minutes are generally rendered from the visual record that is made, so that identification is an important element for for the person who will be rendering the minutes. The minutes for our October meeting were circulated, and has everyone had a chance to look at them? And are there any items for amending them?
I had one small comment, and I just actually read them this morning, Stephanie, and I figured I'd tell you tonight instead of emailing you. The one about the windmill, John Adams fixed windmill, that may have a COA instead of, it should be under like a COA title heading instead of that landmark. I think it was an add-on at the end.
Yeah.
That got put underneath landmark applications and outreach, and I could see why the person doing the minutes, that's just where it fell. But I think that was for COA.
Yes. I can
That's
add
the
that
only-
heading.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah,
not,
it's basically an editorial change.
a heading, yeah, it's just
right.
the heading that
So,
it belongs under, that's,
Any other consideration to be given? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion.
Vicky moves, seconded, I'll second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, minutes are approved. We have two guests tonight for two of our applications, and we usually rearrange the agenda to take them first, so you don't have to sit for 3 hours for our complete meeting. So we'll begin first with 180 Sabonic Road, which was an application for a deck replacement for what is described on an agenda as a circa 1920 dwelling. I believe the AYB on it is 1890.
yeah.
For that application. Let me see if I can pull this up here. Basically the work is done. It's complete?
No,
No, it's not complete?
no. It's
Okay.
framed and ready for approval because I was stopped in the middle of it.
Oh,
And taking down all the bamboo and
so basically we're taking up a deck and
Right.
ripping it off and installing a new deck.
Bringing it up to code, yes.
Right. Let me see if I can bring up the application just to,
That was on the main house, I assume?
show the pictures for it here. This is the work,
We're
some of the
tearing-
work being done on it.
We were tearing it up to get to the bamboo,
Uh-huh.
because the bamboo had taken over the entire property. It was growing up, pushing the deck up.
Oh, really?
So
I
that's
drove
why-
by once and I saw the bamboo screen on the road,
Yeah.
roadside.
It took over the whole property, it's all gone now.
Yeah.
The only way to get the deck up was to get the remainder of the bamboo, was to tear that deck up.
You can see the bamboo in the background on this picture here.
It used to be right where that bird bath is. It covered that entire property. You couldn't see the house.
Yeah. Is this a new framing for sunroom?
That,
or-
that was always there.
That was always there?
Always there.
Okay.
You can see where the bamboo's growing up through the framing. We had to dig it all out.
Yeah.
Looked like some work was being done on the second floor, not that I have a problem with that, either roofing, new window, something, yeah. Maybe that was for siding, I'm not sure.
There's
That's
a
not-
re-siding
Yeah.
going on, yeah. I saw the old picture with some old shingles there. So if, when we look at the, you can see things have been cleared around the house. If we look at the house here, you can see that there is a substantial obscuring of the house in place.
It was all bamboo.
So you can see how the house has been kind of overtaken by foliage previously before the work to clear out and redo some of the external features of the house. Myself, there's no change in the footprint of the house, basically, so it remains the same. I did not find any particular problem with it. I don't know if anybody else has made a visit to the site, but
And I didn't realize the bamboo was being removed. I knew that you couldn't see it, you know, from the road at the time. I think we've done a couple houses up in that area. There were the Browns and the Millers, or it doesn't make any, to go back to figure out which,
we
family
actually,
had that. But that one's always just
yeah.
sort of
The-
a surprise because it's,
The property abuts the golf course as
Yes.
well. So,
it's not in our survey. So
Yeah.
whenever they did the survey, probably because nobody could see it from the road, it didn't end up being in
as
there.
you can see, the
so-
house here, and the golf course close by, so. I see no problems with it, and the opinion of the board, the consensus is there's no problem. So we will send a response back to the building department within the next couple of days, say that we see no problem.
Thank you very much.
Well
Okay.
done with the
Thank-
bamboo.
Thanks for coming and
Yeah.
explaining things, too.
Good luck with the
And
bamboo.
good luck keeping the bamboo
bamboo.
down.
Yeah.
It's one of the most obnoxious and invasive,
It was on 3 feet
yeah,
to get it out. It was horrible.
yeah. 60 years ago, there was bamboo around the house that I lived in, and it took a long time to get rid of it from, we're constantly trying to regrow out, yeah.
So, I thank you very much.
Right.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yep. Thank you.
60 years ago, 70 years ago. Okay, 13A Lighthouse Lane. This is a relatively obscure place on Shinnecock. Just to give you a kind of a bigger picture here, this is Shinnecock Bay, and this property has been developed for a long period of time. This is the bridge across to the Barrier Beach. The house appears on maps for 1902 and 1916, real estate maps in place. Oh, it doesn't, the house does not appear in 1902. The property is identified as belonging to William Perkins in 1902. In 1916, the property is shown as having a house on it, and in the name of William Perkins as well. An attempt to trace him was very difficult. All the Williams Perkins that I found could not be specifically identified as the one associated with this house. The most prominent possible candidate was a sports promoter in the early part of the 20th century, promoting race cars, motor car races from 1900 to about 1910 and 1915. Then he got into tennis, promoting balloon races across the United States, and died in Los Angeles in 1934. But it's all tentative. I've not been able to identify that that guy is the William Perkins who was associated with this household. There's brief mentions in a few newspapers of the William Perkins family showing up in Ponquag, which is the name of this area, in 1910 and in 1911. It's Mr. and Mrs. William Perkins and son. But trying to trace them through the census in New York and other places was not successful. So it remains an open book as to which William Perkins was there. The house appears to have been modified over a period of time as well. I don't know if you want to describe the project for the board
I'd
here?
be happy to.
If you could use the microphone so that...
CMX Sammy Architect, representing the owners, Tim Mahoney, Timothy Mahoney and Dana Mahoney. They are basically, Timothy is son of Mrs. Mahoney, the original owner, which was basically this house was purchased from his mother. They presently own it, and they continue to live in it, and they want to expand it. They're starting a new family. The house, I have not found out the original owners, but I'll take that original owner that you mentioned as quite a colorful character that would enhance the history of this house. Once you go to the site, it's a flag drive. It's not, you can't see the house from the street. It's very close to the water. It has basically a flag drive on the side of it. And the house has been added onto mostly on the front yard side of it, which actually technically it's the rear yard, but traditionally that would be the front yard. A pool has been added on the side of it. There's a wraparound porch, and the porch is on the side of that pool. We are expanding the house on the one side that architecturally has not much significance, and we're using basically the vocabulary of the existing house to weave the new addition, and also making sure that the addition is subservient, at least on the front yard side of it, to the main house, where it sets back, it's lower in elevation and height. You can distinctly still and distinguish the original architecture of the house once you approach it in relationship to the new addition, proposed addition. In the back of the house, there's a distinctive cross gable and a smaller dormer on the third floor. This is a three-story house. The third floor is occupied. There's a master bedroom up there. We use that language basically of that dormer and replicating it on the axis of that third floor dormer and repeating it on the adjacent side. So it's again the same language of the house carried through into the new addition. There are elevations which we're working our way towards. You can see, there we go. So what you see at the top and the bottom, the top is the existing and the bottom is the addition. So again, the top, the massing of the existing house at the top picture is pretty much kept in relationship to the proposed addition. The addition sets back from that and at a lower height and only 2 stories, not a 2.5 or 3-story structure. Most of the work is cleaning up the interior of the space. A lot of these interiors were actually modified in time, so we're just cleaning that up. If we go on to the other elevations of the house, this is the pool side. There was a deck added onto the third floor, which was not in harmony with the original architecture of the house. We're still maintaining that, but we're basically building it more in language of the original house. And also not exposing it as much on the third floor. It's a little bit more roofed and enclosed in that sense. The back of the house, as you can see again at the top with the cross dormer on your left-hand side, we use that as a clue towards expansion of the house, and we use the dormer to the right as a central axis and expanded just a bit from a 1-bay window to a 2-bay window and replicated that cross dormer on the right-hand side and extended the porch at the bottom. So again, and the roof line actually drops, the ridge line drops on the addition, so that again there's a distinct separation between the old and the new. And then finally, the side where we have made the addition, which is a least distinctive and mostly altered side of the house. And that's the language again of the original house that we carried through, subservient to the original house. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And I have also renderings if you want to see more of it, 3D renderings.
Mostly the the house is obscured from a public view for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Most public view of it will be from a boat
Correct.
on the bay, looking at the front of the house. So, is any kind of comments or reactions?
I think you did a nice job of it.
Thank you.
It's lovely.
Thank you.
I think it's a very
The house has
sensitive
been
addition.
remodeled before, obviously, too,
Yes.
so.
Yeah, yeah, especially
really
on,
nice.
on the back, that mirroring of the dormers. I
Mhm.
think it's really, it's
Oh,
nice.
it almost, I felt like maybe they had originally planned that, but they didn't finish it.
It does look kind of chopped off in the original.
Exactly.
I think it's a very handsome design.
Yeah, I think it's lovely.
Thank you.
think you're gonna demolish a couple sheds, I assume they're not, I looked.
Yes.
AYBs, I was getting 1984-ish, I'm not sure.
There are a couple of sheds that did not show up on the earlier surveys. And the building department basically was questioning them, and they're used for storage. They don't have a foundation. There is an existing garage that's was original to the house, dates back to the earlier time. That's got a valid CO and that's staying. But the two sheds that were not in the original survey, basically, per request of building department, we had no issue removing it.
So the garage AYB was 1950, but that probably just got assigned, you would know more.
Correct.
I trust your judgment.
This driveway loop has been there many years.
Yes.
I saw it on the 1938 and 1930 aerial images. So it used to lead, obviously, right through the center of the property next to the road. But when it was subdivided, obviously, it was made into the flag lot that it is today. So any problems with the renovations under the plan?
No.
If not, it looks like we're satisfied and have no objections to it, so.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming and
Thank you.
explaining things to us too as well.
My pleasure. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
To you as
Thank
well.
you.
Okay, we can go to some of our favorite subjects, demolitions of old houses. 30 Leander Terrace in Hampton Bays. A 1940 prefabricated one-story building.
Looks like a chicken coop.
Seen here in kind of a forlorn location.
Two chicken coops in a
shed.
In the, what, Red Creek, Squires Pond area.
Maybe a duck barn.
Myself, it didn't take me very long to
I can't imagine why they want to.
think that this is nothing we should be concerned about.
Should be great.
Yeah,
What's that?
maybe it's a hunting
And-
picture is worth 1,000 words, right? I mean, you've got a
So
great view.
if there are no problems with this
So
being
attractive.
demolished,
No
I'll
problems.
undertake the response to
What happened to the trees around it?
take care of
Just
it.
out of curiosity.
Look like they've been
Okay.
cleared. Maybe recently,
Yeah.
in preparation for something else.
So with that, we can turn to 10 Schwenks Road, which Susan and Vicky have made a site visit to.
Okay.
And by the way, when we do, I think, reports or responses back to the building department, if we've done site visits, we should record them on those reports as
Okay.
part of our report of activity that the board conducts. Okay, so Susan, did you want to do some summary here?
And I needed to call the owner for permission for the site visit, so if he asked for the agenda and the link, so if he would happen to be here, he could be watching, or he could possibly want to address the board. But he and I just spoke briefly. He said, fine, that he had somebody come in and check it, and he was pointing to some of the negative things. I said, we just needed to pretty much go document. We actually this is the second time for this application. We reviewed it in February of 2022, and it appeared to be for work done. There through the years, as I went down Schwenks Road, there were different work projects were always in progress. And one time, I think they got a building permit from the building department, and it hadn't been referred to us. Other times, I'm not sure. But anyways, we did go in February. Vicki and I pretty much more saw it from the road because that was our option at the time. And we had no objection, knowing that it had been very altered. It was a small building. From my research, and it was included in the application, but I also uploaded it, and from what I understand, the current owner has it, that I surmised that it was probably an accessory structure. The main house was probably out on North Sea Mecox, and a couple of the older maps did show accessory buildings to the rear, 2 of them, and 1 or 2, and now there appear to be 2 there. Which would be the main house, and then there's also another small cottage that doesn't show an AYB from the tax assessor, but just based on looking at it and from what I understood, it's around 1900 also. And it was a 1980 AYB garage, but those 2 were not part of the application. The only thing part of the application is the main house. If you went back to the history that I wrote, the window, the whole front's been changed. It used to be dark shingles. There was a rectangular gable window. The whole, looking at from the front, the whole left side had been built where that large chimney is. That whole wing is all new. There were actually pictures in the tax when a building inspector showed up, and it's all plywood and it's like a faux chimney, but you can see it before it was even finished, so that's all new. But Vicki and I walked around the outside, all the windows. If it was an accessory structure, it wouldn't have had windows anyway. There might have been a couple of double hung windows. The other were just a collage of just different mismatched windows. Trying to think, I guess most notable was if you look inside, you could actually see there was no historic material. That was based on the application photos, and that reflected what we saw. But a lot of my concerns were, there were just different pipes coming out and parged over in the basement and wires. I read that there might have been a koi pond, so maybe some of that red hosing had to do with that, but there were a number of things that would be of concern to me if I was a homeowner and I needed to live there. So this is for the demolition. And it's because I think of so many renovations done it.
No, I think that there is, even had we had the opportunity to go into the house, I don't think we would have discovered anything more
Yeah.
than what we saw through
Yeah.
the windows. I didn't think it was even safe to enter the house. There is nothing even to be salvaged. So I have absolutely no objection to this demolition. We've seen it now a couple of times, and we've walked the property extensively.
And I think the homeowner did mention that he had somebody, he had actually originally was going to keep it or incorporate it, and somebody came in and evaluated that, that nothing matched, the foundation was rotten. I was gonna request if he had that in digital format, but after Vicki and I saw it, we decided that there was no sense in requesting more than what we saw would have reflected exactly that. So we have no objection. It was on the AKRF list as being altered, and if anything was discovered, to let them know. But the person who even built it, from what I understood, was a Stubbs. He was actually an engineer. I think he worked for the trains, and he was also a carpenter. He probably renovated the first one. I mean, the first accessory building. It seemed like he had some hired help at the time, and my guess is that's what it was used for. And then through the years, that just continued. The one, and only have a couple articles which I didn't include in the report, but I will send them on to the homeowner with the response. He was interested in the Marlboro man that lived there in the 1980s. And I had a couple of Don Piercy, and actually the one was a Dan's paper, so he was running around town in his hat. So I'll include that, so the homeowner would actually have a picture of the Marlboro man, but waive the engineer's report and no objection.
Okay, well, I agree. And actually, that neighborhood doesn't have many historic structures around it. Most of them are rather large, new
Right.
structures that have been built in recent times.
There was a potato barn across the street.
There was.
I mean, an altered, a converted
Right.
potato barn, but now it's a two-story dwelling that doesn't resemble a potato
Yeah.
barn anymore.
But all along, you go all the way down
Yeah.
Schwenks
So-
Road.
No, you're right.
It's a snazzy
Well, it's a
neighborhood.
newer road, it's Schwenks Road, I think, whatever, it wasn't put into the 20s or 30s, because North Sea Mecox would have been
Yeah.
road at the time.
Okay, do you want to do the response on that?
Right, I'll
then?
mention the site visit, and I'll include the little PDF with the Marlboro man. And I don't see any reason to forward the homeowner, well, he might not have it, I'll include a copy of the report, or ask her to resend them in case, depending on, he might not have a digital copy of it.
Okay, good. 64 Henry Road, North Sea. A house that had had some work being done on it at the time. It sits just off of North Sea Road. This is Henry Road here, and it sits right on the curve. In terms of the house itself, let me see if I have the pictures here. This is the house as it exists now, and it has a shed garage. Does not have much character to it. The AYB on it was 1920, in the assessor's record. Obviously, I think it's been remodeled many times over. The windows certainly aren't original. And the application was it has a plaza or recessed entry in the application. Let me see if I can get the application up for this here, where they had some pictures as well, along with
It
not
wasn't
a
clearly
description of the
stated.
project, but they just had pictures of the house itself, which ordinarily I would say, it didn't have a written description of what they were planning to do, so it was originally kind of hard to figure out what was going on until we went there. But in any case, this is installation of a kind of concrete.
Foundation.
What it said, I looked up in the application, and it said they were applying for work done,
It is work done, yes.
for a foundation, work, and a deck.
Oh.
That was,
But the house itself is, undistinguished in character.
And they've already done the work.
Now, does anybody have any concerns with this project? If not, why, I'll send back a
And I drove down that road and I didn't see them
no
doing that,
objection,
so.
with it. Okay. 2578 Montauk Highway in Bridgehampton. Is for a renovation of a house which is listed with an assessor AYB of 1890. The structure of the house, it's a four-square house that seems to me to be out of character for 1890 in terms of the assessors AYB.
You think it's newer than that? Ed,
Pardon?
you think it's newer than that?
I think it's new. I think it might be newer, but I just did not have time to delve into all the kinds of research. In 19, let me blow this up a little bit just to give you. This is the Topping Rose Resort here on the corner of Sag Harbor Turnpike and Montauk Highway. This is the Nathaniel Rogers House on the corner of Ocean Road and Montauk Highway. This is an older, more traditional house that was owned by an established mercantile family in Bridgehampton named Tiffany. The property next door is the one that is of the application. In 1902, it was listed as H. Hunting, I believe Henry Hunting, who at one point was a member of the New York State Assembly. And in 1916 the house was in the hands of Mrs. William Bradley, who apparently was the widow of a Professor William Bradley. Professor of what, I have no idea, but in any case, there was a record of a structure being in place in 1902 and in 1916. Whether it was the earlier form of this house currently, I don't know. I have not been able to pin that down. The plan is to enclose the back of the house, a sunroom, and make it into a kitchen, put a deck on top of that, and then have a renovated rear elevation with doors onto the deck, which would be doors leading from the master bedroom onto the deck. For the most part, this is not, get rid of the, there was some pretty good pictures. They have mislabeled the plan elevations
That did
on,
me in.
and that's happened, I noticed, on several occasions before, that the label of east, west, front, rear have been switched around. This is the front of the house as it exists. This is the rear where the renovation, most of the renovations would be taking place. And if we go to the plans, which are on a different scale than the pictures, you can see this is the front, this side. What happened to the rear elevation? There we go. Yeah, this will be the rear of the house with its new deck and rear kitchen added. The interior arrangements are, are not something that we're concerned about, so those plans we can basically ignore. It's on the rear of the house, not visible. Doesn't seem to be totally out of character with the style of the building that is there at the moment, which appears to have been remodeled anyway. It does have a rather large dormer with 2 windows in it. This just shows in the roof one open void. Myself, I didn't find anything of significance, but
I had a question. The one thing, it was a little line, and then it said replace all windows and doors.
yes, there are, yeah, they do point to some of the windows that are
that-
being,
Did some, because some went to diamond shaped even. That is the one that caught my eye, even though they were,
which window are you talking about?
they might have been the bay. You have to look for the proposed,
The bay windows here?
yeah, little diamond pane, a couple, 2 or 3 places on the proposed south elevation, but that's probably,
And, yeah, I think there are some
And the
shown
west
on the south
elevation.
elevation. Here are these windows as well.
That would be so.
yeah.
Diamond pane windows making a comeback. Do you find any problem with that, Susan? Or
I don't know, I just found it,
let me see if I can find the pictures.
yeah. Well, I was trying to figure out the elevations at the time, and then when I saw that, that's, I'm not familiar, you live in Bridgehampton, I trust your judgment. Usually they do in like, in kind, I didn't,
They don't have diamond windows on them now.
no, but,
They don't have diamond
no,
windows on
to
them
my
now. They're
knowledge, that's not
replacing
what they
them.
show.
Look like they're,
Looking like
9
the
over
6
ones or
over
something.
ones and,
So basically, the diamond windows would be replacing what you
Side
see
bays.
here as 6/1 that looks like on the,
and they may not even be visible because they're at an angle, so it may not. They show up in the diagram, they may not show up even.
I don't find them out of character for
That's fine.
the building.
I just point
Yeah.
that out, so
Yeah.
that's, I trust your
As a matter of
judgment.
fact, some of the more period buildings, I recall, that have now mostly been demolished in Bridgehampton, but were built in the 1885, 1890, 1895 period, did have diamond pane windows very frequently in them, particularly an area known as Quimby Lane, which Martha will know about, but it was a road that ran from Ocean Road down to Sag Pond, and a lot of those houses had diamond pane windows as well as square lights in them too.
corners.
So any problems with it? Okay, so I'll respond without a concern, so. We received a landmark application for 126 South Country Road. It came how?
I think it was mailed in or
Mailed in and then scanned?
and scanned, and then I sent it out.
Okay, all right. Yeah, it wasn't, I mean, perhaps it should be posted to the portal page eventually as a backup record for it. But it's
Yes, yeah, it should be.
it's absent a considerable amount of historical justification, I think.
Bill
There
and I have some work
previously-
to do on it.
Yeah, there previously had been done for the house next door. 128,
Actually, the building next door is 130 South Country Road. That's the Academy building that was originally constructed by John Tuttle. This is the house directly next door to it. And it's owned by the Kings,
right.
but originally was a Tuttle house. It's one of the very oldest houses on Main Street in
Right, but
Remsenburg.
there was a Tuttle house that was profiled on a previous application in 2019, I thought next door.
That would be, I think, the one next door to it to the east.
So that history of that is linked to the history of this in some degree.
Yes,
Yeah, so I think Bill and you may have done it.
that's the one, the house behind, the barn.
All the
Yeah.
way in the back.
Yes, all the way in the back, yep,
Right, so, okay, I just wanted to
yep.
connect some of the dots that are here. The problem is that some history would, I think, have to be done on this.
Yes.
And the question is, who should do the history? And I'm kind of getting to the point of thinking that the Landmarks Board personnel are being exploited for the wrong purposes. And that perhaps a consultant should be recommended to the town board for a historical profiling of this application, rather than having the work done here. Most landmarks board have professionalized their operations to the extent that assessments of historical significance and documenting historical structures and buildings is done by professional employment. The question is, what do you think of that idea?
I think it's a wonderful idea.
Do the applicants pay for the consultant,
Yeah.
or? Well, if the applicant is applying for it, I would think the applicant would pay for that. If the town is initiating the landmark.
Well, I'm not interested in sabotaging the idea so early.
No, but it's interesting because if you want to encourage people to landmark, you then, what's the encouragement to landmark if it's gonna cost them money? I agree that it would be nice to format some kind of historical record, so it was all the same, and if a consultant did it, it would take a format that would be,
I know there've been there've been a couple of recent landmarking discussions at the ARB in the village, where the applicants have retained at their expense a professional consultant to do the historical research to present to the ARB.
Was this part of the village historic district, or were they proposing changes to their house?
The entire village is considered a historic, and this was a street that was not designated per se, but it had a multitude of older, much in the, 1900 to 1920 era houses.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's out of step with, I think we should consider it, that would be my recommendation. Or my
Well,
preference.
the problem is I want to reverse the trend of the town board with respect to its level of support. And one of the things we're charged with in the code is recommending to the town board the necessary consultants for conducting our work. And the question of whether they want to set the rules of who pays or not, that, I think that should be their decision to take that kind of responsibility, rather than us deciding that question. But I think the thing is that we should not be constantly exploited in a way for doing the research, the writing, the assessment, when no other board has that set upon them. They have professional staff, they get consultants, and they get their reports done that way. And I don't think that we should be an exception to that kind of practice in the town's operation.
Well, many boards have an historian who actually attends every single meeting and comments on every single property.
Well, it may be
discussion.
that the town board may push this to another part of the town government, but it's a place where people are paid to do it in a professional capacity, so. So
Yeah.
if I can maybe express something here, would you be of a mind if I approach the town with this problem and let them figure out the answer? Maybe it is to go to the town historian, but that's their job to make that kind of responsibility there. If it's to, make an applicant pay for a consultant, that's their responsibility too. But I can lay that stuff out for them in a memo, and see if we can get the workload adjusted for the Landmarks Board for ourselves. Is that agreeable strategy?
I think it's not a bad strategy in the long term. It's been, my practice to reach out to folks in the neighborhood that, Bill and I work in, particularly in Remsenburg, and to encourage people to landmark their homes if they are so inclined. And, I take time to go meet with them at their homes to talk through the process. I tell them that Bill and I will be coming, Bill primarily to look at the architecture of their house, and me primarily to do the research on the history of the house and the family and all of that. So it's been my practice to kind of offer this personal touch, and I would not like to, at least for right now, change that approach with the people that we're currently dealing with, which includes 126 South Country Road, and then there's another family who are potentially interested in landmarking. I just met with them last week. So, and the other issue is, I see here, I wouldn't want to put any impediment in the way of people landmarking their homes and asking them to pay for a consultant to do this historic research, which we traditionally have done ourselves, I think puts an impediment in that way.
I agree, that's probably one consequence of asking applicants to pay for their application
Especially when they
and
don't know if
consultant.
they'll be approved
Yeah.
in the end. So they will have spent money to find out that the town then doesn't approve them, when you can't really tell them the benefit. I think the personal touches, I used to recommend loads of people to do it. And they were quite discouraged by the process. So I think the personal touch is important because you lose some selling value theoretically. And I think even if a historian did it for you, to have somebody that you could reach out to on the board is important. So I think who does the work? If you're talking about getting the work more evenly distributed, as I haven't really contributed, I would love it if you weren't, because then I'd feel less guilty. I think it's important that somebody's there to talk to them, that's just not a consultant.
Yeah.
Because this is about village development. It's
But-
about what we do in our own home,
Right.
in our own villages, so I think.
No,
it's
no, I
important.
absolutely understand what you're saying, Stephanie. And I don't think that we would have to necessarily lose that personal touch.
Okay.
However, what I interpreted Ed proposing was a resource to our board so that we might have somebody to assist us in doing all this research. Because I think it is an unfair burden, in the amount of time and effort. You just don't put these reports together in 2 minutes, Stephanie.
No.
I know that. It takes hours and hours and hours and hours. And we are basically volunteers. We're given a tiny stipend for gas allowance or something. So we're not paid. And I think it would be a big benefit for us as we move ahead now that we're, a CLG, that we actually have some professional support. And that would enable us, I believe, to expand our efforts and to get more opportunity to propose landmarking for different properties if we have that backup.
Yeah, that kind of model, I think, would be better, where we have a resource that
We
we
have a
could bring
consultant.
to the table when
Yes.
it's time to do one of these reports or,
Right.
other documentation or outreach. So I think that's a model I would prefer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I agree with Vicky's perspective that the personal involvement of holding a potential landmark, the hand of a potential landmark, or the doorknob of a potential landmark, can still take place. Kind of the role of ambassador, facilitator, but for somebody to be able to package and do the information and, is really, I think, needed, especially going forward. I don't think we're going to have less work to do.
Yes.
And there's got to be a way to accomplish certain things, including the fact that there are a lot of things that aren't done. People need to be trained. The town board, doesn't realize that we are engaged in an educational mission. They think we're just kind of another land management board, it's looking at applications, that's all that gets done. But that's not the only thing we do. We go out into the field, we meet with people. I don't know how many meetings I've been to talk with people, or conversations that I've had with respect to encouraging various projects that are going on. So there really is a need for some kind of, I think, change in the methods that we're doing. So, well, what I'll do is I'll see if I can sketch out a little plan and circulate it for comments before anything goes upstairs. Okay. But we are agreed that we do have to get more information on 126 South Country Road, and because you responded to him that the application was received, and then you made up some complicated form with check boxes on it.
Oh, yeah, that's just for my own, just to keep track of the timelines, because there are timelines in the
Yeah,
code.
there are.
Yeah. Well,
There's a
the
lot of
question
steps.
is, among other things, do we find the application complete?
Right.
And at this moment, I would say it's not complete. If, we need some status to describe it to the applicant. And that, at some point, we'll have to do a more fulsome history and research on the project.
Yep.
Okay. The others, I don't think there's any news on Walnut, 11 Walnut and 149 South Country Road. The Bridgehampton Historic District is complicated by multiple individuals putting their fingers in the pie. And the present status is there is a survey of some of the homeowners who were included, I shouldn't say homeowners, but of the owners of the properties, because some of them are not homeowners of those properties. So two of the houses that were in the Bull's Head area, basically around the Monument Square area of Bridgehampton, have opted out of wanting to be in the district, which is a process started by one of the loose fingers in this process. One of them has, well, I won't get into the details. Two of them still remain to be, three of them, there are three that have to be responsive yet. One, Julie Green, had served as a contact, and she's left phone messages on the phone of the house concerned and has got no response. I sent, or I asked Renee to send a letter out to another homeowner who lives in Manhasset and who did not respond yet, with a request to communicate by email or phone. I tried every device to find out phone numbers, and nothing worked. So we have to get them to contact us. There was a return receipt requested on the mail. We'll see if that produces any result. And a fifth one has not yet been contacted, but I think I'll be speaking to the fifth one by phone within a week or so. At the time, she was in England and was not available for initial communication, so I have to track her down. I know she returned, and she generally goes south for the winter and has to be, I think, located there probably.
When you say they've opted out, what are the options then? They don't want to be involved in the landmarking.
Well, the town board, in trying to make sense of it, came to the point that there are two kinds of zonings involved here in this district. One is commercial, highway business, highway office, and then there are a couple of houses that are R20, but they also, some of the houses have also had commercial permits for operating. And but anyway, that was their decision. They would say, oh, anybody who is in a residential type zoning could opt out of it. And that was not my choice of strategy to deal with it, but as I told the town board at the meeting, we only propose, they dispose. And basically, that was their inclination, is to use that system to push this forward. Okay, any questions about that? Hopefully, in the future, any future possible
So would you say
historic
that-
districts won't suffer from the same fate, and just have to
Two
make
locked
sure
out,
that not the,
one unavailable, and how many others then? Total of how many? You have 5 or 6?
there originally were 1, 2, 5, 6, 7.
7.
It was 7, right? 2 are okay having their properties in. 2 are not, and 3 remain to be made certain, one way or the other.
Okay. Gotcha.
Might be good to mention the schedule of the hearings that are coming up on it. And
Yes, good, and some additional excitement generated after that it was suggested that the historic district be set in code, so that there would be a map that would be identified in the code for the historic district. That process involves going to the Suffolk County Planning Board for review, which is another, how many months down the road, nobody would know. But anyway, that process is going to be separate from the actual designation of the district, which is scheduled for December 12th. But also on December 12th will be the hearing, the vote to have a hearing on the code amendment for the district.
I think the hearing is on the 12th. Didn't they already set the hearing for the 12th? Or maybe it's just on to set.
I think it's to set the hearing, yeah. So otherwise, the thing would take forever, but,
So
But
December
they can
12th.
function separately. If the town board doesn't create a zoning district, there will still be a.
still be,
historic
yes,
district.
there'll still be a designation, but the only, one of the things I think that were not considered at the time was that if you wanted to adjust by including other properties along or within that area, that, then you have to go through the whole process of amending the district, which then means probably going back to the Suffolk County Planning Commission for any kind of amendment that might take place.
Well, it could be an amendment or it could be a new overlay district. It could be a residential Bridgehampton district. Either case, it would have to go back to the commission, yes.
Yeah, whatever you revise would have to go through
Sure.
that process. So it's an extra bureaucratic layer with an undetermined timeline associated with it that, can be a bit problematic. So, anything more on the Bridgehampton Historic District? Okay. With respect to other matters at the bottom, town-owned cemeteries, nothing there. The Stony Brook Southampton Historic Buildings. On December 19th at 7 o'clock, we will have our Landmarks Board meeting. On December 19th at 10 a.m., a meeting will take place at the Southampton campus of the Stony Brook University Management and the Stony Brook Council, which is an advisory body of citizens that has some input and review of activities of the Stony Brook management, and actually has legally is responsible for the welfare of physical plant, the physical facilities, although most of that is preempted by the state university bureaucracy in Albany in terms of its operation. But in any case, I plan to make an appearance. Assemblyman Fred Thiel told me he's going to make an appearance as well. And there may be more participants. I was going to explore the possibility of getting SHPO involved because the preservation law of New York State, as well as its authorization under the federal preservation law, says that historic resources that are potentially to suffer some kind of benign or adverse effect from any planning and any project must be done in consultation with the Commissioner of the State Parks and Historic Preservation of New York State. So it brings into the scene the possibility of a higher level of interest on the part of preserving the buildings and restoring them to their glory. And the hint that I once received, and I think Martha received, that the Claflin Mansion was kind of a project that would be one that it would be demolished rather than restored, which is something we should not, we do everything we
They were
can
happy to
to
ignore
prevent
it
from
until
happening.
Yeah, they were happy to ignore it till it was so far gone that
Yeah.
it had to be taken out.
But they would have to do a lot of justification for not restoring it and investing in that capacity. In any case, we'll have to see how this plays out in the coming month for bringing more attention. And I think also the fact that probably the public interest is there for it. The newspapers probably would be inclined to want to see what happens there as well, and that may bring more focus on this project. Certified local government activity. We received a message for signing up for some webinar that has credits associated with it. Do you remember anything about it, Vicki?
There's an ongoing series. I don't remember which one that was, but basically we get, I think you've been forwarding them, David. They have a series, not that many, but periodically they do offer webinars where you can get credit. I was going to suggest that for next year, that we apply, with your okay, that we apply for training grants for 2024, and then look in 2025 for, to apply one of our projects, and we can discuss that, perhaps not, this is not the right venue, for awards, recognition for work that Landmarks has done on a specific project.
I think one of the requirements for having the status of a certified local government is that the board members involved have some ongoing exposure to training and education on
Right.
On the agenda of historic preservation. And that's something that, needs to, I think, be brought to, as well, the town board's attention, that there's a lot of stuff that has to be taken care of that maybe they're not aware of, but we'll have to probably wait till a change in town board personnel takes place in January in order to maybe to raise some of these issues with them.
Is it possible to, for example, have for the town to front the expenses of the training and then get reimbursed via grant? So that we don't go through, because it's such a long process for these grants, to go through another, year without training, to me, is a disservice to the board.
Well, there's no place in the budget that authorizes expenditure for
A
support
specific,
of personal expenses. I mean, everybody has personal expenses. I pay probably for certain historical data, $450 a year for a subscription. And, newspapers.com, maybe Susan, do you have a subscription to newspapers.com?
No, I don't.
You don't? But anyway, if you have,
Just because I
for
do other
historic
papers.
newspapers, it's $60 a year. That kind of thing is really very useful for the kind of work we've been doing, but there's no way to get
but we
stuff.
can't get reimbursed for
Right.
that.
Long Island genealogy, that one I have.
So, and plus the fact that we drive around to make site visits and everything else to document what we're looking at. So, anyway, there's a lot to
discuss
address.
Right.
Hopefully, we will be able to take the historic district business off of our Bridgehampton Historic District by the next meeting, so we'll see. Any further business for us to consider?
That You can start writing your blurb for the Bridgehampton Historic District for the map. No, I'm teasing.
Oh,
Start that one. The one thing is, the website is officially updated with all the 31 through 39, all the new landmarks. We just received that. Colleen, I think, got that done, and so that's good to know. I think a couple changes on there. The one was, Dave suggested, instead of Town of Southampton landmarks, they're town designated. A little bit of terminology difference, because some of them aren't town landmarks, they're West Hampton Beach landmarks. That the town landmarked. Trying to think, Foster Downs, now Josiah Foster House, as per the resolution, and the other ones have been added, so that's good. Moving on to the historic resource map, I thank Bill and Ed and Stephanie for writing up their blurbs, and Martha for taking photos. She volunteered, she said, I'll go take current photos of all the town landmarks.
I'm working my way, I've done about 15. but-
So I just said, okay, so I submitted what, you had, what I
I've
had.
gotten to them.
And, anyway, so I gave that to you this past week.
It might have been the end of
The
last week.
CDs, I gave you the CD, I think it was, last, probably Wednesday. And so that, it's all the new landmarks, the 31 through 39, and then while I was waiting for you to return, which was just fine, I worked on the current landmarks based on my 2017 CD that didn't get implemented. So I dug into that, and hopefully those are all in there too, with your photos added. So those have gone, of course, on to GIS, and in the meantime, we got the link for the map. And it's interesting, I'm used to the old map, and so I wanted to hear other people That did have some downsides. If you went too quickly, you got a widget error. If you didn't let it load and you went to hit it a second time. And right now, I think historic markers are permanently in a widget error. You can't open those. And I think the other downside, at least as I remember, is they are in a database, so you can't, if you Google the William Caldwell House, you will never get into the map. It won't take you directly to the information on the map. That's one reason why we tried to link it out of the list, because they explained to me it's in a whole different process that just, it's not web access. So I was hoping, do you know about the new proposed one? Is that one going to be, will people be able to find it, these landmarks on the map in the Google search?
If you do a Google search now, does it take you to the town historic resource map?
Was that, yeah, the historic
do a Google-
resource map? Because my thing was, if somebody, Googled the Topping Rainer house, I mean, besides a few things that it's gonna, may pull up, I wanna pull up the map so people have access to the history, all the blurb, the whole thing. But now that wouldn't happen. So, but that's a question,
So, I had mentioned this earlier, but if you have any comments like that, just put them
sure,
in an email
so
to
that's,
me.
and I asked, I fielded you that question, but I didn't have to have an answer, but I put that, because in that case, changing the format would be, I played with it myself, and, same thing that, I think on my phone, it said that I had to use a certain, I had to use a browser, so I said, yeah, just use the browser. And it pulled up 2 paragraphs, and that's all I could see on my phone. But I guess those little lines up the top were the menu. But somebody else might not guess that, because I know there's supposed to be more. So those are the comments I'll send you. If you know there's supposed to be more, you start looking. But if you don't know there's more, you might not click on that map icon. You might not click on the plus sign, because you,
Yeah, that confused me. I didn't know that you had to click on that map icon to go to the map. I'm saying, well,
because I said, where's, I
Yeah.
thought, well, I liked because like
It's
with
so
the Bridgehampton.
small.
yeah,
Um,
there should be some little note under it.
It just,
saying,
the
click
word
here.
map next to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it'd be nice if they're feudal graphics, so, but I'll write those up. It's not that it's negative, but I think other people are sending you their comments, and that's great. Did anybody else have anything to add that they hadn't sent to?
Yeah.
I
But one,
only got comments from Stephanie so far. I don't think I got anything from you, unless it was buried in another email.
It was a reply all to,
The typos, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't send you mine because I'm still
Oh, okay.
working on it. Plus, I've used
She-
the old one
She's lengthening her
more. so-
list.
Yes. It has to come from, I think, people who have used the old one less, and, because I've heard other people complain, they keep saying they get errors when they do it. I've heard that.
That's often been my experience, to the point that I can't find my way around. I can't get into it.
With the beta version? Or are you talking about the current?
No, the old one.
The old one.
Oh, the old one.
Because you have to let it load, and you see it over here that it's setting, and you know just to wait. And if you get impatient and click twice, that's the
Try to
end
use
of
the
it.
beta version and give us comments on that one.
Yeah,
So
so
if-
we'll go back to the
I'll tell you
beta
that.
version.
If
But-
if we look up, like, the applications that come in, when you go to look them up, I often get an error.
Oh, that's a whole different thing.
Okay, then
We're
that's.
talking about the historic resource map.
Beg your pardon.
So anyways, I will work on the next group I want to work on, and I will base some of it on the 2017, or the National and State Register. And so I wanted to make sure the town got submitted first, and maybe we get all of our local things caught up. And then I'll start going down the list, because I had done a whole lot of corrections, I think clear down to, the historic district. So anyways, thank you for everybody that participated, and send your comments directly to David then? Okay.
And they're already working on it upstairs, so
What was that?
they're already
Oh,
starting
are
to-
they?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, great. It would be nice if the newer version was easier to update, then maybe there's a factor there that the new beta
It'll be
version.
pretty much the same, it's just data entry.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter which format they're using, the data entry is the same, they said.
Oh, okay.
Okay, anything else for our consideration tonight? Let me just mention, we have a Landmarks Maintenance Award program. In the past, when we've offered it, we've generally found the applicants repeating their applications multiple times, the same applicants over a number of years. And I'm wondering whether or not we might think about changing the procedural rules a little bit to suggest that landmarked structures, owners of landmarks seeking the opportunity for some funds be actually given the priority in having funds made available to them rather than look at all the applications on an equal footing.
That would be a benefit to landmarking, so at least you'd have an argument as to why, if there's grant money, you go
You have
further
to
up
be
the list.
landmark now to get it.
Pardon?
You have to be a landmark now to qualify.
Right, but we're talking about, as you may recall, that certain landmarks have been the recipient of many
Right.
awards over a number of years. And the question is, if we announce the, opportunity for applications, do we want to treat those in equal
Oh, you're talking
measure?
about giving priority to people that haven't.
Have not
qualified.
had, yes, yeah.
I think you can set your own rules, I think.
Well, I'm throwing it out there for some response.
Seems fair. The other alternative is to cap, the amount that any individual property owner could receive, so that it opens up the window to more applicants.
Well, that's one way of doing it, but the other question is kind of reward the new rather than the old landmark structures.
Yeah, I mean, in the last couple of years, we haven't had as many repeat applicants as we have had in prior years. I think there was only one applicant last year and maybe one or two the year before. And I don't think either one of them was a repeat. So, I think it's not a bad policy if we start getting a bunch of applications and some of them are, an applicant who's applied and received multiple grants in the past. But I'd rather just kind of wait and see how that plays out, depending upon how many applications we get and from whom.
What if in our announcement, we just said priority would be given to first-time
First-time applicants?
applicants who have not received an award?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think we went to the matching also, that was a little bit,
Well, that takes, that, I think clearly the town board in recent years wants to see matching.
yeah. Well, I'm not, so that's one way we sort of contained it, how much we were expending.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Or spending out, we weren't spending, giving out.
Okay.
Because Stephanie, I mean, I go by whatever you all think down there, you're the one that's getting them in, your West End, And if you're selling it along with the maintenance, you know, that's,
Yeah, it's one of the
It's one of the
benefits
perks,
if you landmark, is that there can be these funds available for as long as the fund lasts, for folks who have maintenance that needs to be done on their historic homes.
Mhm.
So, I don't wanna take that away, but yeah, I do recognize in the past, we have had some applicants who come to the well multiple times. But that hasn't happened in the last couple of years.
So, anything
As you
further?
drive around and you see some of the landmarked houses, it's been interesting for me to see some that I didn't know. Does everyone know that there are grants available if their houses are landmarked? Because some of them could do with a bit of money spent on them.
I know the ones that we deal with, I definitely make sure that they know that that's available. When we send out an announcement, do we send it to the owners of all, eligible landmarked properties in the town?
In recent years, we've not sent by mail. It's just been announced by PR release for the local press and on the town website. But no
That's a good
target
idea, though.
mail.
I mean,
I was gonna say,
it
you
wouldn't
could
take a
pop
lot
it in
to
the
do a letter
post.
directly to,
Yeah, because a
There's
number of the
only 40
landmarks
of them.
properties are not eligible,
right.
so, but the
There's
number,
probably only a handful that are privately owned residences.
yeah,
There's only 40 altogether on the list, so,
Mhm.
I mean, some of
Who's
them
counting?
do need to, they benefit from knowing there would be some money available to them,
yeah.
probably. I mean, I couldn't say for sure.
But, yeah, it'll be a matter of maybe reaching out to 20 or so
Right.
residents. We might then have more applications on our deck this year.
So, okay, anything further to put on our agenda? If not, the meeting is adjourned at 8:33 PM.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Thank
Thanksgiving.
you all.